Title: The Feast of Fear. Phil lived in a small, dimly lit house on the edge of a quiet town. For a decade, he had taken refuge within its walls, locking himself away from the world outside. His solitary lifestyle was interrupted only by the thunderous presence of his enormous wife, Kat. She was a force of nature, a whirlwind of energy and size. With each step, she stomped around their home like a rhino, demanding attention and, more often than not, food. "I need food," Kat bellowed, her voice echoing ominously through the narrow hallways. Each stomp was a tremor, sending shivers down Phil's spine. Panic surged within him as he scrambled to hide. "Not again," he muttered under his breath. He dashed into the kitchen, crouching behind the counter, peeking through the gap where the cabinets met the wall. Would this be the moment she decided to cook dinner? Phil had always been a timid man, but today, his fear took on a new dimension. It wasn't just the overwhelming size of his wife that terrified him. Something deeper gnawed at his insides. Kat had discovered a secret about him, one he had kept buried for years. He was no ordinary man but a pig-human hybrid, a porkish being with exquisite marbling and tender flesh. And in her eyes, he had become the perfect ingredient for a dinner that would satisfy her unquenchable appetite. He imagined being sautéed, seasoned, with an aromatic blend of herbs and spices. The very thought made his stomach churn, and he felt trapped within his own body. "Phil!" she roared again. "Where are you?" With no other option, he slipped through a door into the living room, hoping to escape her notice. He ducked behind the couch, praying it would muffle the sound of his panicked breathing. The floorboards creaked under Kat's weight as she marched toward him. Phil could practically feel the heat radiating from her body, a warmth that contrasted sharply with the ice forming in his veins. "Phil, don't make me hunt you down," Kat warned, her voice dripping with menace. "I'm starved." Phil's heart raced. He had to think fast. He considered the back door, perhaps he could make a sprint for it. But what lay outside? The sun, the people, the vastness of a world he had chosen to ignore for years, and, worse still, the fear that had paralyzed him from venturing out. He couldn't let her catch him. He wouldn't let her turn him into her next meal. Desperate and out of options, he clambered up the staircase to their bedroom, hoping to find a semblance of safety. He squeezed himself into a small space between the dresser and the wall, his breath shallow as he listened to Kat's booming footsteps approach the staircase. The shadows shifted as she turned, only to be followed by the sound of her rummaging through the pantry. Phil dared to peek out, witnessing her towering frame stretch to grasp for anything that resembled food. A can of beans, a box of pasta, and then, the knife block. "No, no, no," Phil whispered, panic clenching at his chest as she withdrew a long, gleaming chef's knife, its blade reflecting a grim reality. She was serious about cooking, and he was the meal. In a fleeting moment of bravery, fueled by desperation, Phil made the choice no natural instinct would ever suggest. He needed to confront her. Emerging from his hiding place, he found her at the kitchen counter, arranging a disarray of ingredients. "Kat," he shouted, surprising even himself. "You can't cook me, I'm your husband." Kat turned slowly, the knife poised in her hand. "Oh, but honey, I've been waiting for the perfect day to finally savor you. You could say it's my dream meal." The corners of her mouth twisted into a sinister grin, one filled with the promise of a grotesque feast. Phil felt his heart plummet. "Please, we can figure this out. We can order takeout." Desperation painted his words, but the laughter that erupted from Kat silenced him. With a sudden move, she lunged towards him, the knife gleaming with hunger and ambition. Phil was trapped. The walls of his self-imposed exile crumbled under the weight of the reality that his biggest fear had become his fate. The chase was short-lived. In a home filled with walls that once provided refuge, he found no escape. She cornered him in the kitchen, a predator finally catching her prey. Phil's last thoughts raced through his mind, memories of freedom, laughter, and the sunshine of a world he had shunned. Kat's laughter rang out, the dark joy of a cook who had finally captured the perfect dish. And as she lunged, Phil vanished into the shadows, leaving behind only the echo of his predicament, a tale of fear, confinement, and the ultimate betrayal of trust. The meal was prepared, and as the delicious aroma filled the air, only one thing was certain. On this night, fear had served its cold, unforgiving dinner.